Captain Taeho Kim stared at the screen in front of him. He had been watching the same spot in the night sky for 3 weeks now. Something wasn't right. "Dr. Park, can you look at this again?" He called across the quiet control room of the Korean Space Defense Force headquarters. Dr. Hae-yeon Park put down her coffee and walked over. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the data. "Those are not natural readings, Captain. Whatever is out there, it's not a meteor or space dust." Tae-ho nodded. He had thought the same thing. For weeks, the deep space scanners had picked up strange energy patterns just beyond Mars. At first, they dismissed it as equipment error, but the pattern kept showing up, growing stronger each day. "Should we alert the other countries?" he asked. "Not yet," Hae-yeon said. "Let's gather more data first. I don't want to cause panic over a scanner glitch." Little did they know, the strange readings were far more than a glitch. In the darkness of space, Supreme Commander Sith of the Voidcrawler Empire looked at the blue planet on his view screen. His large, four-eyed face showed no emotion as he spoke to his officers. "We have studied them long enough," Sith said. "These humans are too unpredictable. They fight among themselves constantly. They develop weapons far beyond what they need. They will be dangerous if allowed to spread beyond their planet." The officers around him nodded in agreement. The Void Crawlers had spent months watching Earth, learning about humans, studying their languages and technology. What they found troubled them. "Prepare for war," Sith ordered. "Position the fleet around their planet. We will give them a chance to surrender, as is proper, but I expect they will agree quickly once they see our power." The massive alien fleet, over 200 ships, moved silently toward Earth. Colonel Jin Woo-song was in the middle of his morning briefing when all the screens in the cybersecurity division went black. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, we're being hacked," a young officer replied, typing frantically. "But this isn't like anything I've seen before. It's hitting every system worldwide at once." Jin Woo frowned. "That's impossible. No one has that capability." Suddenly, the screens came back on, but instead of their normal displays, every screen on Earth, from military monitors to civilian phones and TVs, showed the same image: a tall, four-eyed creature with gray skin and a long head. "People of Earth," the creature spoke in perfect English, "I am Supreme Commander Sith of the Voidcrawler Empire. Our civilization has existed for 50,000 of your years. We have conquered hundreds of worlds, and now we have come to yours." All around the world, people stopped and stared at their screens in shock. "We have studied your world and found you to be dangerous and unpredictable. Your history is filled with war. Your technology focuses on destruction. You cannot be allowed to spread into space." Sith paused, his four eyes blinking slowly. "As is proper, I formally declare war on the planet Earth and all its nations. You have 6 hours to surrender to our authority. If you do not, we will begin destroying your military bases, followed by your cities." The screen went black again, then returned to normal. For a moment, there was silence in Jin Woo's office. Then chaos erupted. "Sir, what do we do?" someone shouted. Jin Woo didn't hesitate. "Record and analyze everything about that transmission. I want to know how they broke into our systems, what language they were really speaking, and any details about their technology you can find. Move." At the United Nations in New York, an Emergency Security Council meeting had been called. Representatives from every nation sat together, many still in shock from what they had seen. "This has to be some kind of hoax," the American representative said, though he didn't sound convinced. "It is not a hoax," said the Russian representative. "We have visual confirmation of multiple large objects in orbit around Earth. They were not there yesterday." The Korean representative stood. "Our Space Defense Force has been tracking unusual readings for several weeks. We have data to share that confirms these are artificial craft of enormous size." The room fell silent as the data was displayed on the main screen. The Secretary General finally spoke. Then it seems we are indeed at war. The question is, do we surrender? Absolutely not, the British representative said firmly. Even if what they say is true, that they've conquered other worlds, we cannot simply hand over our planet. Nods of agreement came from around the table. Despite their many differences, the nations of Earth quickly united against this new threat. Then we need a plan, the Secretary General said, and we need it fast. Back in Korea, Captain Taho was meeting with his team, including Dr. Hae-yun Park and a new addition, Major Soo-bin Lee, Hae-yun's childhood friend and one of the military's top strategists. We've been analyzing their transmission, Hae-yun explained. There's something strange about it. They broke into our systems too easily. Soo-bin nodded. It's like they found a universal backdoor, but that shouldn't be possible. Unless, Jin Woo said, joining the meeting, they're using a single system to control all their ships and communications, a centralized network. Hae-yun's eyes widened. That would explain the energy patterns we've been seeing. It's not just their ships, it's their network spreading out, mapping our communications. Can we use that against them? Taho asked. Jin Woo smiled for the first time since the alien message. Give me 2 hours. All around the world, military forces went on high alert. Fighters took to the skies. Missile systems were armed. Submarines moved into position. But most importantly, the best minds in technology and strategy came together over secure channels. In just over an hour, Colonel Jin Woo's team made a breakthrough. We've cracked their language, he announced to the emergency coalition of world leaders. And more importantly, we found a flaw in their system. Explain, demanded the American general on the screen. They use a single communication protocol for everything: weapons, navigation, life support. It's elegant but has a critical weakness. It assumes that anyone advanced enough for space travel would use the same approach they do. Can we exploit this weakness? Asked the Chinese admiral. We already are, Jin Woo said with a grim smile. Dr. Park and her team have created a virus that can penetrate their network. Once inside, we can disrupt their entire fleet. How soon can it be deployed? Hae-yun stepped forward. It's already uploading. Their system is trying to map our internet, but in doing so, it's letting our virus in. On his flagship, Commander Xith received reports from his officers with growing confusion. What do you mean they're not surrendering? Don't they understand our power? Sir, said his second-in-command, not only are they not surrendering, but they appear to be preparing for battle. All their military forces are active. Xith shook his long head. This was not the response he expected. In their studies of Earth, they had seen that humans often surrendered when faced with superior force. What the Void Crawlers failed to understand was that humans never united so quickly as when facing an outside threat. Begin the attack, Xith ordered. Target their largest military installations first. Yes, Commander. Weapons locked on target. Firing in 3, 2. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Commander, something is wrong with the targeting system. Xith stood up. What do you mean? I don't know. The coordinates keep shifting, and I'm getting reports of similar problems from other ships. Unknown to the aliens, Jin Woo's virus was already at work, corrupting their systems bit by bit. And on Earth, Major Soo-bin was coordinating a global defense strategy unlike anything the Void Crawlers could have imagined. The war had begun, but not at all how the aliens had planned. What do you mean the weapons won't fire? Commander Xith demanded, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in anger. His weapons officer looked up from the control panel with confusion. Sir, the targeting systems are malfunctioning. When we try to lock onto a target, the coordinates keep changing. Xith slammed his 3-fingered hand on the arm of his command chair. This was not how the invasion was supposed to go. The Void Crawlers had conquered many worlds before, and none had caused problems like this. Then fire without the targeting system, he ordered. Their cities are large enough targets. The weapons officer tried, But now more alarms sounded across the bridge. "Sir, something is wrong with our main systems. The weapons aren't responding at all now." Back on Earth, Colonel Jin Wusong watched with satisfaction as his computer screen showed the progress of the virus spreading through the alien fleet. "It's working," he told Captain Tahoe and the others. "Their ships are all connected to a central network, just as we thought. Once the virus got into one ship, it spread to all of them." Dr. Hae-Yun Park nodded, her eyes fixed on her own screen. "Their technology is advanced, but their approach is too perfect, too orderly. They never expected an attack from inside their own systems. That's their weakness," Major Subin Lee said, looking at the tactical display showing the positions of the alien ships. "They think too much alike. They don't understand how humans fight." Taiho looked at his team with pride. In just 2 hours since the aliens' war declaration, they had gone from shock to counterattack. "What's our next move?" he asked. Subin pointed to a smaller ship at the edge of the alien fleet. "This one. It's separated from the others, probably a scout ship. If we can get aboard, we could access their main computer directly." Jinwoo finished her thought. "Speed up the virus, maybe even take control of their systems." Taiho looked at the ship's position. It was in low Earth orbit, much closer than the main fleet. "How do we get to it?" he asked. Hae-Yun smiled. "I think I have an idea for that." All around the world, humans were responding to the alien threat in ways the void crawlers never expected. In the United States, hackers who once worked against the government now worked alongside military experts to launch digital attacks against the alien ships. In Russia and China, missile systems were not firing at the aliens. That would be too obvious. Instead, they were powering up and down in random patterns, creating electromagnetic noise that confused the alien sensors. In Europe, radio astronomers turned their massive dishes toward the alien fleet, bombarding them with powerful signals on frequencies that interfered with the void crawler communications. And in smaller countries around the world, people found their own ways to fight back. Amateur radio operators jammed the frequencies the aliens used. University professors used their knowledge of mathematics to help break alien codes. It wasn't a coordinated attack in the way the aliens understood warfare. It was chaos. Beautiful, human chaos. And the void crawlers had no defense against it. "Sir, we've modified the spaceplane," the engineer told Taiho. "It won't show up on their scanners now." Taiho looked at the small craft in the hangar. It was a 2-person vehicle, normally used for low-orbit repairs to satellites. Now it was their best hope for reaching the alien scout ship. "Who's going with you?" Jinwoo asked. "Dr. Park," Taiho said. "She needs to access their computers directly." Hae-Yun nodded, already putting on a spacesuit. "The virus is working, but too slowly. If I can get to their main system, I can take control much faster." Subin handed Taiho a small device. "This will help you track the ship. And this," she gave him what looked like a simple pen, "will open their doors. We figured out their lock systems from the data we've already collected." Taiho took both items and put them in his suit pocket. "How long do we have?" 2 hours, at most, Jinwoo said. "The aliens are having trouble with their weapons now, but they'll fix that eventually. They're not stupid, just inflexible." Taiho nodded and climbed into the spaceplane, with Hae-Yun right behind him. The hangar doors opened, revealing the night sky above. "Good luck," Subin called as the plane's engines fired up. Commander Chith was getting reports from all over his fleet now. Ships were having problems with navigation, communications, and weapons systems. Some had lost life support and were running on emergency power. "What is happening?" he demanded. His chief technology officer looked grim. "Commander, we're being attacked through our network. The humans have created some kind of virus." "Impossible," Chith shouted. "They're a primitive species. They can't even travel beyond their own moon." Nevertheless, the officer said, "They'd found a way into our systems. The virus is spreading faster than we can stop it." Sith paced the bridge of his flagship. This was not going according to plan at all. The war was barely 3 hours old, and already his mighty fleet was in trouble. "Disconnect from the network," he ordered. "Each ship must operate independently." "We can't, sir," the officer replied. "The system wasn't designed to work that way. Everything is connected. Navigation, life support, weapons. If we disconnect, the ships won't function at all." For the first time in his long military career, Commander Sith felt fear. Tai-Ho guided the spaceplane carefully toward the alien scout ship. Thanks to Subin's device, they could see it clearly on their screens, though it was still invisible to normal human technology. "We're approaching the ship," he told Hayun. "Get ready." She nodded, checking the small computer she would use to access the alien systems. "Remember, we need to find an access port. It should look like a hexagonal panel somewhere on the outside of the ship." Tai-Ho maneuvered the spaceplane alongside the much larger alien vessel. It was silver and smooth, with few obvious features. But after a few minutes of searching, they found what they were looking for: a small hexagonal panel near what appeared to be an airlock. "There," Hayun pointed. "That's our way in." Tai-Ho brought the spaceplane as close as possible, then engaged the magnetic locks to hold them in place against the alien hull. "Suits sealed?" he asked. "Yes," Hayun confirmed. "Let's go." They exited their craft through the small airlock and used magnetic boots to walk across the alien ship's surface. When they reached the hexagonal panel, Hayun took out a small tool and placed it against the center of the panel. After a moment, the panel slid open, revealing a complex array of crystal-like structures inside. "Perfect," she said, and connected her computer to the alien technology. Inside the scout ship, alarms began to sound as the system detected the intrusion. But it was too late. Hayun was already in, and her modified virus was spreading faster than ever. Back on Earth, Jin Wu and Subin watched as new data flooded their screens. "They did it," Jin Wu exclaimed. "We have access to everything now. Ship schematics, weapon systems, even their battle plans." Subin immediately began distributing the information to military leaders around the world. "With this, we can target the weak points in their ships if we need to." But targeting might not be necessary. The virus was now spreading at an incredible rate, taking control of system after system on the alien vessels. The main view screen showed the status of the Voidcrawler fleet. Ship after ship was going dark as their systems failed completely. "How long until the fleet is disabled?" asked a general who had just joined them via video conference. "At this rate," Jin Wu said, checking his data, "less than an hour." The general looked impressed. 4 hours after declaring war, and we've almost won." Subin shook her head. "Not yet. We still need to get our people back safely." On the alien scout ship, Tai-Ho and Hayun had finished their work and were heading back to their spaceplane when they heard noises coming from inside the ship. "Hurry," Tai-Ho whispered. "I think they know we're here." They moved as fast as they could in their bulky spacesuits, but just as they reached their craft, a section of the alien hull opened. 2 Voidcrawler soldiers in space gear emerged, pointing strange weapons at the humans. "Don't move," one of them said in broken English. Tai-Ho and Hayun froze. They were so close to escaping, but now. Suddenly, the lights on the alien suits flickered and went out. The soldiers looked at each other in confusion, then tried to raise their weapons. But nothing happened. "The virus," Hayun whispered. "It's affected their suits too." Taking advantage of the aliens' confusion, Tai-Ho and Hayun quickly climbed back into their spaceplane and detached from the scout ship. As they sped away toward Earth, they could see the massive alien fleet in the distance. Ship after ship was dark now, floating helplessly in space. The human counterattack was working better than anyone could have hoped. Commander Sith stared at the main screen of his flagship in disbelief. Half of his fleet was now offline. The ships floated uselessly in space, with no power, no weapons, and barely enough life support to keep their crews alive. "How is this possible?" he asked, his voice quiet with shock. "They are just one planet. They have no space fleet, no advanced weapons." His second-in-command had no good answer. "Sir, they fight differently. Not like any species we have encountered before." Sith turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the humans. Tell them we." He stopped. The communications officer was frantically pressing buttons on his control panel. "Sir, our communications are no longer working. We can't send messages out." Sith's 4 eyes blinked in growing alarm. "What about between ships?" "That's gone too. We can't talk to the rest of the fleet." Just then, another alarm sounded on the bridge. The main screen changed to show a small section of the fleet where something new was happening. 3 of the ships that still had power were firing their weapons, but not at Earth. They were firing at other Voidcrawler ships. "What are they doing?" Sith demanded. "Why are they attacking our own fleet?" The weapons officer looked up from his station, his face pale with fear. "Sir, I don't think our ships are doing this. I think the humans are controlling them." Back on Earth, Major Su-Bin Lee watched with satisfaction as the alien ships turned against each other. "The remote control is working," she said to Colonel Jinwoo, who sat at a computer terminal next to her. "We have full control of their weapons systems on the ships where the virus has completely taken over." Jinwoo nodded, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "We're being careful to only disable the other ships, not destroy them. We don't want to kill anyone if we don't have to." Across the room, a cheer went up as the space plane carrying Captain Taiho and Dr. He-yun appeared on the tracking screens, safely returning to Earth. "They made it," someone shouted. Su-Bin allowed herself a small smile. Her friends were safe, and the plan was working better than anyone had hoped. In just under 4 hours since the aliens had declared war, humans had not only stopped their attack, but had turned their own ships against them. Taiho and He-yun were rushed straight from the landing pad to the command center. They were tired but excited about what they had accomplished. The direct connection worked perfectly, He-yun reported, sitting down at her workstation. "I was able to get complete access to their control systems." "What did you learn about them?" Jinwoo asked. "They're called the Voidcrawlers," He-yun said. "They've been conquering planets for thousands of years, but they've never encountered a species quite like humans before." "How so?" Su-Bin asked. "They fight as a single unit," Taiho explained. "Their entire society is based on unity and order. Every ship follows the same rules, uses the same tactics. It makes them strong when fighting conventional battles, but it makes them incredibly weak against the kind of attack we launched." He-yun nodded. "Their ships all use identical systems. When we found a weakness in one, we found a weakness in all of them." Jinwoo looked at the main screen, which showed the status of the alien fleet. More than 2/3 of their ships were now completely disabled. The remaining ones were either partly under human control or trying desperately to fight off the virus. "What about their ground forces?" he asked. "Have they tried to land troops on Earth?" "A few small shuttles made it through before we took control," Su-Bin reported, "but they were met with strong resistance." In cities around the world, small groups of Voidcrawler soldiers had indeed landed, expecting to find easy targets. What they found instead were prepared human forces and civilians who quickly adapted to fighting the alien invaders. In Tokyo, a squad of aliens discovered that their advanced weapons were useless against simple water when firefighters turned their hoses on them, shorting out their equipment. In Rio de Janeiro, the aliens found their communications jammed by a teenager with a homemade radio transmitter. In London, they tried to take over a government building, only to be trapped inside when local police cut the power and sealed the doors. And in Seoul, a group of 5 Voidcrawler soldiers found themselves surrounded by Korean special forces who had quickly learned the weak points in the alien battle armor. Nowhere on Earth did the aliens find the easy victory they had expected. Humans, it turned out, were very good at fighting. They had been practicing on each other for thousands of years. On the Void Crawler flagship, Commander Sith was facing a growing crisis. More of his ships were falling under human control every minute. His officers were starting to question his orders. And now, a new message was appearing on all screens throughout the ship. The message was in the Void Crawler language, but it came from Earth. "Attention Void Crawler forces," it read. "Your fleet is now mostly under our control. Your ground forces have been captured or defeated. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will be forced to use your own weapons against you. We do not wish to cause unnecessary loss of life." Sith read the message twice, unable to believe what was happening. The war was less than 5 hours old, and the humans were already demanding his surrender. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "perhaps we should consider their offer." Sith turned on him angrily. "Surrender? To a primitive planet? Never." "But sir," the officer insisted, "look at our situation. Most of our fleet is disabled. We can't communicate with our homeworld to request reinforcements, and the humans have shown they can take control of our ships at will." Other officers on the bridge were nodding in agreement. Sith looked around at their faces and realized he was losing control not just of his fleet, but of his own crew. "5 more minutes," he said. "Give me 5 more minutes to think." In the Korean command center, the team watched as their countdown to the deadline ticked away. "Do you think they'll surrender?" Taiho asked. "They have to," Haeyun said. "We now control 80% of their fleet. Their ground forces have been defeated. What choice do they have?" Jinwoo wasn't so sure. Their commander, this Sith, seems very proud. He might choose to fight to the end. "Then we'll have to convince him otherwise," Su Bin said. She turned to Haeyun. "Can you set up a direct video link to his flagship? I want him to see who he's fighting against." Haeyun nodded and went to work. A few minutes later, the main screen in the command center changed to show the bridge of the alien flagship. Commander Sith sat in his command chair, looking shocked that humans had hacked into his ship's visual systems. "Commander Sith," Su Bin said, standing tall before the camera. "I am Major Su Bin Lee of Earth's Defense Forces. Your deadline for surrender is approaching." Sith stared at the human on his screen. How have you done this? How have you defeated our fleet so quickly?" "You made a mistake, Commander," Su Bin explained. "You thought that because we fight among ourselves, we would be easy to conquer. But fighting each other has taught us to adapt, to think quickly, to use any advantage we can find." She gestured to her team. "Captain Taeho Kim and Dr. Haeyun Park boarded one of your ships and gained access to your systems. Colonel Jin Woo-song created the virus that disabled your fleet, and millions of other humans around the world contributed in their own ways to defending our planet." Sith was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "What are your terms?" Su Bin looked to Taiho, who stepped forward. "Return to where you came from," he said simply. "Leave our solar system and never return. Tell others of your kind to avoid Earth. We do not want war, but as you have seen, we are very good at it when forced to fight." On the screen, they could see Sith talking quietly with his officers. Finally, he turned back to the camera. "We accept your terms," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "We will leave as soon as our ships are operational again." The humans in the command center looked at each other. Less than 5 hours after the aliens had declared war on Earth, humanity had won. One day after the Void Crawlers surrendered, Commander Sith found himself in a large room at the United Nations building in New York. He sat alone at a table, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. His 4 eyes blinked nervously as he looked at the sea of human faces. How had it come to this? Just yesterday, he had been the supreme commander of a mighty invasion fleet. Now he was a defeated leader, about to face the demands of a species he had severely underestimated. The Secretary General of the UN stood up. "Commander Sith, you declared war on our planet. Your fleet has been disabled. Your ground forces have been captured. Now you will answer our questions." Sith nodded slowly. "I will answer your questions." Captain Taeho Kim stepped forward. He had been chosen to lead the questioning because of his role in the successful mission to infiltrate the alien ship. "Why did you attack Earth?" Taeho asked. Sith's long fingers tapped nervously on the table. "We have been watching your planet for months. We saw how you fight among yourselves, how you develop weapons far beyond what you need for hunting or self-defense. We determined that if you were allowed to spread into space, you would be a threat to other civilizations. So you attacked us first." Dr. Hae-Yun Park asked from her seat next to Taeho. "It was a preventive measure," Sith explained. "We have done this before, with other species that showed aggressive tendencies. And did those other species defeat you as quickly as we did?" Colonel Jin Wusong asked. Sith's fingers stopped tapping. "No, none of them did. In fact, we have never been defeated before." A murmur ran through the crowd of human representatives. Then perhaps Major Subin Lee said, stepping forward to stand beside Taeho, "You should explain to your people what happened here, so they don't make the same mistake again." Sith looked at the four humans who had been most responsible for his defeat. "What do you want from us? Reparations? Technology?" Taeho shook his head. "We want peace. We want you to leave our solar system and never return. And we want you to tell other alien civilizations to leave us alone. But before you go," Jin Woo added, "we want to understand your technology better. Not your weapons, we've already figured those out. But your faster-than-light travel, your communication systems, things that could help us explore space peacefully." Sith seemed surprised by the request. "You would use such knowledge peacefully? After what you did to our fleet?" Su Bin stepped closer to the alien commander. "We defended ourselves. There's a difference between being good at war and wanting war. Humans don't want war. But we've had to become good at fighting, because we've fought each other for so long. And that's what you didn't understand about us," Hae-Yun added. "Our greatest weakness, our tendency to fight among ourselves, is also our greatest strength. It's made us adaptable, creative, quick to find solutions to new problems." Sith was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will share what knowledge I can, and I will tell my people, and any other spacefaring races we encounter, that Earth should be left in peace." 3 days later, the Void Crawler fleet was ready to depart. The humans had helped repair their ships, but had also made sure to remove any weapon systems that could be used against Earth. The aliens would return home with their lives and their ships, but not their pride. In the Korean Command Center, Taeho, Hae-Yun, Jin Woo, and Su Bin watched on the main screen as the alien ships slowly moved away from Earth orbit. "Do you think they'll keep their word?" Su Bin asked. "I think so," Taeho replied. Kith seemed genuinely shocked by how quickly we defeated them, and by how we let them leave instead of destroying them when we had the chance. "Speaking of which," Jin Woo said, turning away from the screen, "we need to talk about what we learned from their technology. The things they shared with us in exchange for their freedom." Hae-Yun nodded excitedly. "Their faster-than-light drive is amazing. It works by creating a bubble of space-time around the ship and—" Later, Dr. Park, a voice interrupted. They turned to see the defense minister entering the command center. "First, we have something important to discuss with all of you." The four friends looked at each other in confusion as they were led to a conference room. Inside, they found not just Korean officials, but representatives from the United States, Russia, China, and several other countries. "Please, sit down," the defense minister said. Once they were seated, an American general spoke. "What you four accomplished was remarkable. You saved the Earth from alien invasion in less than 5 hours. That's unprecedented." "We had a lot of help," Taeho said modestly. "Yes, you did," a Chinese official agreed. "But you were the core team that made it happen, and that's why we're here." The Russian representative leaned forward. "The UN Security Council has made a decision. We need to prepare for the possibility that other alien species might discover Earth, And we need people who have already proven they can handle such a threat. The defense minister smiled at the four friends. We're creating a new organization, the Earth Defense Force. Its mission will be to protect our planet from external threats and to explore space peacefully when possible. And we want you four to lead it, the American general finished. Taiho, He-yun, Jin-woo, and Subin looked at each other in surprise. But we're just. He-yun began. You're exactly what we need, the defense minister said firmly. Captain Kim's leadership, Dr. Park's scientific knowledge, Colonel Song's cyber expertise, and Major Lee's strategic thinking. Together, you saved Earth once. We'll need you if we ever face such a threat again. After a moment of stunned silence, Taiho spoke for all of them. We would be honored. 1 week later, Commander Sith stood before the High Council of the Voidcrawler Empire. He had just finished explaining the disastrous defeat of his fleet. This cannot be true, one council member said. No primitive planet could defeat our forces so quickly. It is true, Keith insisted. I have the records to prove it. He touched a device on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared, showing the battle, or rather, the lack of battle, as human hackers took control of ship after ship. How is this possible? Another council member asked. The humans are different, Keith explained. They think differently than any species we have encountered before. They don't fight as a unified force with clear rules and strategies. They fight chaotically. Creatively, each human seems to find their own way to fight. He paused, then continued. And they have been fighting among themselves for thousands of years. They've become experts at warfare not because they love it, but because they've had so much practice. The council chamber was silent as the members considered this information. What do you recommend, Commander? The head of the council finally asked. Stay away from Earth, Keith said without hesitation. Mark their solar system as forbidden territory, and spread the word to other spacefaring races. Do not declare war on humans. They don't fight to win battles. They fight to end wars, permanently. Back on Earth, in a new facility built specifically for the Earth Defense Force, Taiho stood at a window, looking up at the stars. Behind him, He-yun was studying the alien faster-than-light drive. Jin-woo was creating new cybersecurity protocols, and Subin was developing training programs for the first recruits of the new force. Do you think we'll see them again? Subin asked, joining Taiho at the window. The void crawlers? No, he replied. I think they learned their lesson. But there are many stars out there. Many other civilizations, probably. And some of them might be friendly, He-yun added, looking up from her work. Jin-woo grinned. And some might not be. But they'll all learn the same lesson if they try what the void crawlers did. What's that? Taiho asked. Don't declare war on humans, Subin said with a smile. You'll regret it within hours. The four friends laughed together as they continued their work, preparing Earth for whatever might come next from the stars. Earth's first battle with an alien species had lasted less than 5 hours. And thanks to the lessons learned from that brief war, Earth would be ready for the next one, whether it came in peace or looking for a fight.